Hey YouTube, welcome back. So today we're going to be doing some more Kotlin exercises. We actually had someone reach out via some comments, which was super exciting for me. George reached out and said, "Hello, can you help me solve this problem? An array that includes the whole number and making sure that it's the smallest number that is greater than 0 and not in this array." So I was able to find this problem here on Geeks for Geeks and confirmed with him that it is in fact, this problem that he was zeroing in on. And we'll solve this today in Kotlin. I'll give a few different solutions and hopefully this kind of inspires or helps you, George. So this is finding the smallest positive number missing from an unsorted array. And basically you're given an unsorted array with both positive and negative elements. And you have to find the smallest number missing in big O in time. I got close to this. It's probably not exactly, but at least, some others who are smarter than me can get it pretty close. And you can modify the original array. I think this is how you do it in big O in time. This page actually has several examples. I probably did something similar in a couple of them, and the inputs or the examples that you have here look like this. So you have some numbers and you have the output. So let's get into our code here. And so how I started with this is I started with some tests, basically copying these inputs that were coming through, or these examples, and then from there figuring out exactly what code needed to be written. So I'm a big fan of test-driven development, so I wrote some of these tests and then we wrote the implementation. So everything in Kotlin starts with fun.
Hell yes.
And so this fun example, so I did the input, filtered through and found only our positive numbers because we want to return just the smallest positive. So we don't care about anything that is 0 or less. Stripped that out using a filter, and then distinct because some of these have a couple of the same number. So did a distinct and then sorted because you can sort that array. And then from there, just looped over it. I have this result found. I think you could probably get rid of this. I may do that before pushing the code up. But essentially you loop through, and if the number in that place doesn't equal the next number, then you found your spot. So example of this would be, I is 1, and then your sorted input I would have to be 1. Otherwise, you found your result and you're going to break out. So this kind of continues the loop. So I is 2. Sorted input needs to be 2, and so on and so forth, all the way up to whatever the max value is inside of this sorted input. So that's kind of the naive approach. You're looping through several times, doing the sort, and also in this loop as well. You also have to make sure that you contemplate if the number is at the end. So this example, so we have some negatives, a 0, a 1, and the output needs to be 2 because we've gone through the whole array and the only one we're missing is the last one. We need to contemplate that, so that's what this if statement does, and this result found, which I think you could actually kill this. Let's do some refactoring here. So if we got rid of this, I think you check result is 0, then I think that works. Let's try and run these real quick. See if this works for us. Yeah, so we can run all these. I broke it out into these nested classes because I did multiple solutions. So this is kind of the naive solution that I put together. And then there's another one, which I believe is off of this page as well, where you use like buckets. Maybe he doesn't use the word bucket out of here. And so you have to figure out basically looping over the array, and you set the index of that number to be true or false. And then from there, you just loop over it and get your answer. So the first one you would encounter with 0, that's your answer. We could do, we don't have that result found here, so we're good. So you have to find the max element. There's a nice helper here in Kotlin, max or null. And then you use the Elvis operator because if you have null, then you want it to be 0. Again, you have to add 2 to account for the end. And then there's, this bucket solution has the same tests, calls this other method, and, loops through using a couple of while loops. So you're populating the bucket here, and then you're searching through it here. So this one is, big O with some extra container, some extra memory size. You're also looping through here, a few times. So it's not a true big O of in, but it's pretty close. It's probably like a big O in login or something like that. And last one, so this is more functional style. It's not 100% functional. I couldn't quite get there with figuring out what to do with result, but this again has all the same tests. So if we run them, they're all passing. And this is doing kind of the pipeline, if you will. Like this is what functional code looks like. You can add other things like Michael Bull, and do, in this style, you end up doing like an OK or error container. And, I don't want to get into all the functional programming stuff, but you have monads and basically map over that. So that if you're into functional programming, pull that library, and that one's a good one, especially for web development, building out APIs. So this goes the same thing that we saw up in the first example. So we filter, distinct, and sort, and then we reduce. And there is a little bit of a gotcha. So like you would think that the first element would come out of data, but it does not. For whatever reason, it puts the first element in accumulator and then gives you the rest in data. So to get our full result set, we use accumulator, and then we just return, whatever the thing, like the element in the last part, so we can keep looping. Basically, we say, if you don't equal that spot, like we looked at, 1 and 1, 2 and 2, as you're looping over it, then you found your result. This also is a Kotlin scope. And so I always have to keep this open to know, how to use these appropriately and what the return value is. So bookmark this page if you're doing a lot of Kotlin. This one's a really good one. So we do all this, and then we do this last check for our out of bounds or like a number at the end section, and that's it. So hopefully this was helpful and you learned something. If you enjoyed it, then like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.